There's been a lot of talk recently in Japan about a possible rise of the populist right, and of the Sanseito party in particular. So is this new right wing on the rise in Japan? Well, Sanseito has seen a lot of success in the polls as Japan heads into its 2025 election for its upper house, the House of Councillors. They've been as high as 8% in some recent polls. Now, that might not sound that high, but that could put them in second or third place behind the LDP, the governing party of Japan, due to Japan's fragmented political scene with multiple parties. They've also recently overtaken the DPFP in the polls, who until recently were quite popular as a centrist party, and they finished fourth in Japan's 2024 election. So to get that 8% and overtake some major parties in Japan in a relatively short period of time is quite an achievement for them. Now, they've also had some more recent tangible success in a recent local Tokyo election as well. They only fielded 4 candidates in Tokyo's vote, but 3 of them were elected. This shows that a populist right-wing party like Sanseito can turn out voters and have targeted local success, as well as just polling high nationally. The rise of Sanseito is all the more impressive as it's a relatively young party. It was only founded in 2020, but already has a strong presence on social media. They first made a name for themselves adopting a sceptical stance during COVID, advocating for greater freedom not to wear masks or take vaccines during the pandemic. Aside from that, its policies are quite traditionalist and strongly conservative. The party generally has anti-immigration views and want more protectionism in the economy, and they also favour rewriting Japan's constitution, which bars Japan from formally having a military. On social issues, they oppose the LGBT Understanding Act and are also opposed to reform to allow couples to opt not to have the same shared surnames. Sanseito's leader, Sohei Kamaya, also recently pushed back against the extent to which society emphasises women working versus starting families, saying, "Of course women working is fine, but we push too hard with the everyone must work mentality." Now, the support base of Sanseito actually skews younger, and this is in contrast to the alternative New Populist Party, the Conservative Party of Japan, who are also looking to gain more seats in the 2025 election.
However, this election, Sanseito's leader has been making a play for older and more traditional LDP supporters and voters. He's been describing the party as the Liberal Democrats of the good old days.
Now, Sanseito have also shifted the conversation during the 2025 campaign towards an anti-immigration stance and have expressed concerns about the effects of immigration in Japan. Sanseito in this way are effectively flanking the conservative LDP on their right, and this could have a large effect on Japanese politics if it's successful. For one thing, if they break through and gain more seats as they expect to, and this would increase the prominence and influence of the Sanseito party, they currently only have 2 seats in the upper house and are aiming to win at least 6 during this election. They also have a good possibility of winning more than that if the polls are as good for them as they suggest. However, by effectively flanking the LDP on the right, there's a real chance they, even in seats where they don't win, they could take votes away from the LDP by drawing in support from their traditional voter base, and this could cost them seats that go to other parties. This could be impactful, as it's crucial for the LDP and their partners Komeito to win the 50 or so seats they are targeting in order to maintain a working majority in the upper house. And because of this, I think there are 2 scenarios where Sanseito could realistically force the LDP to move to the right after this election and generally shift Japanese politics in a more populist direction as well. Now, scenario 1 is that, as expected, Sanseito increase their share of the vote, but the LDP and Komeito parties win the 50 or so seats they need to maintain government. Now, that result would likely be good enough for Prime Minister Ishiba to continue as the Prime Minister of Japan. But if they were to fall short of the more ambitious target of 60 or so seats that many in the LDP want to target this election, and also they lose seats to Sanseito in this election, and this would lead to Sanseito potentially being seen as a serious threat to the LDP and their supporter base in the long run, and Ishiba would likely face pressure to move to the right to combat this. Now, for example, there's any number of issues where this could shift Ishiba's stance going forward and affect his ability to make decisions. For one thing, there's been considerations of the LDP working to reform the traditional surname system in Japan, where married couples have to have the same shared surname. Now, a move like this would likely involve Ishiba gaining cross-party support to get it through. However, this would become very problematic for Ishiba, with a more traditional Sanseito party threatening him on his right wing, and if he had to work with more left-wing and centrist parties to get it through, then this would just hand Sanseito more ammunition to use against him. Ishiba would likely have to consider dropping any consideration of reforming this, and he would also have to think about adopting more anti-immigration policies or rhetoric as well to counter Sanseito. Now, also, there's a second scenario, which is what if the LDP do poorly in the 2025 election? So poorly, in fact, and partly down to losing votes to Sanseito, that they were to lose their majority in the upper house. Now, if that were to happen, it would be a major blow for Ishaba, and it would likely be very difficult for him to carry on as Prime Minister in that scenario, and he would have to step down, I would think. If that were to happen, there's no clear successor within the LDP, but one possible candidate would be Sanseito Takeichi, who ran against him last time, and now she is considered a more right-wing, conservative member of the LDP, and she has more traditional stances on issues like the surname reform. Now, if Ishbia were to step down after losing threats to his right in Sanseito, she would be in a very strong position to say that she can be a voice for the traditional right and could combat a threat from populist parties like Sanseito and could help win back support from voters that the LDP have lost. So a strong showing from Sanseito in this scenario could very well propel Sanseito Takeichi back to the top of Japanese politics, and in that way also generally shift things further to the right in Japan if she were to become Prime Minister and leader of the LDP. So hopefully that shows some of the possible consequences of this election and the potential outcomes if Sanseito were to do well and break through as expected, and the possible impact of a rise of a populist right in Japan.